Today's Cowboys Report is made possible by Roan. Get 20% off polos like this and a whole lot more when you use promo code ChatSports over at roan.com/chatsports. Before we dive into today's show, it is feedback season here at the Cowboys Report. So we want honest answers on today's show. How likely are you to recommend the Cowboys Report to a friend, family member, whatever? Scale it from 1 to 10. And if it's below like an 8, please tell me what we can do better as well. We do want to hear your feedback on today's show. Let's begin with if you watched our live show yesterday, I had made the comment, you're going to hear Trey Lance trade rumors again. Lasted like 3 hours before we heard another one from Rich Eisen of NFL Network saying that he heard combine rumors about the Vikings trading for Trey Lance. Quote, I heard this rumor. A possible solve at quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings is a native of the state, and his name is Trey Lance. Trey Lance is a possible solve for the Vikings. Now, the Cowboys kept him on the roster long enough to get a bonus. Which isn't really how it works, but whatever. So they're paying him money to keep him, which that part is true. That's what matters. And as you know, they got him for a 5. I'm just wondering if the Vikings flipped them a 3, a Friday night pick. Do they go ahead and do that? We told you this was going to happen. That there would be Trey Lance rumors once again. And the Vikings being linked should come as no surprise in terms of if you were guessing what team would have been linked. Of course it was Minnesota. They've always been linked to Trey Lance for an incredibly long time. And there is at least a chance they end up losing Kirk Cousins, who I think it's Minnesota or Atlanta for him coming out of the combine. So there is some logic behind this of you take Trey Lance and you get more back than what you gave up for him. Now, when the season ended, it was, of course, Dak Prescott QB1, Cooper Rush QB2, Trey Lance QB3. Make no mistake about it. The Cowboys want Trey Lance to be quarterback 2. That was their plan when they traded for him. They had interest in drafting quarterback last year in the 4th or 5th round, depending on who fell. The way the board fell, it didn't materialize. They passed. So when Lance became available, they said, hey, this guy's younger than some of the quarterback prospects in this year's class, such as Bo Nix. Let's take our 4th round pick. It'll be a late 4th round pick, which it is, and we'll have a developmental quarterback with different contract timeline. But get a better pick back when you need it to fill some of your other needs, by the way, because you might not want to spend in free agency again. More on this to come, but first, your thoughts. Do you want the Cowboys to trade away Trey Lance? T for trade him, K for keep him. It's the pinned comment on today's video. If the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. I think flipping him for a better pick sounds great, right? Sounds great in theory. There are some very big issues here. Number one, the Cowboys not give up a 5 for him. It's a 4, which I've seen other people say. Don't know how that got conflated. Most importantly, the Vikings have no 3rd round pick, which I think is kind of a big thing to miss of like, hey, we'll give you this. You don't have that. And also, is Trey Lance really worth that? That's why it sounds great, right? He did nothing all year long, never saw the field, went for a 4th round pick. Now his value is around earlier, a year later, with 1 year left on his contract. I don't know how credible that really is, frankly. I don't know how believable that is. Granted, sometimes quarterback stuff gets wonky, but the trade value would have suddenly gone up when he's still been barely playing football his entire career. High school, college, NFL, he hasn't played much. Now, I get the arguments of Minnesota, Lance for, let's call it a 4th and change. They have 2 4s, by the way. And, gambling on that versus trading up for J.J. McCarthy. I don't know. I think that could make some sense for Lance. And for Minnesota, maybe it makes some sense for Dallas, but I find that to be you hear a lot of things at the combine. There's a lot of stuff you hear, and not all of it ends up coming true, because oftentimes it's multiple things on one player, only goes one way. This one doesn't quite pass the smell test for me. Now, today's show, speaking of passing the smell test, is Roan, thanks in part to their Gold Fusion anti-odor technology. Gives you more wears between washes. The male closet was due for a radical reinvention, and Roan has stepped up to the challenge in a major way. The Commuter Collection. is the most comfortable, breathable, and truly versatile set of products known to man. They have stuff for every occasion. We're talking pants, super comfortable. Dress shirts, super comfortable. Quarter zips, super comfortable. Polos, and now blazers as well. They look great as individual pieces, and they work seamlessly together. 4-way stretch fabric is breathable, flexible, and works everywhere from your commute to work to golf to drinks afterward, everything in between. Unparalleled confidence without the hassle with Roan's commuter collection. Can get you through any workday, straight into whatever comes next. Head to roan.com/chatsports and use promo code chatsports for 20% off your entire order. That's 20% off your entire order when you go to RHONE.com/chatsports and use code chatsports to find your corner office comfort. As we will do a bunch with the clock ticking, Dak Prescott contract conversation, once again a part of today's video. Dak actually spoke for the first time about a potential contract extension at a charity event alongside Troy Aikman. Here's what Dak said. I'm definitely confident. It helps the team, and it's important for the cap numbers. I've heard Jerry say that. It's a process. Both sides understand that. Everything is great, and it'll happen. All of this is talk to me. Now, not that I'd expect anything else specifically from the quarterback in this case. And Dak does normally play that media role fairly well. Outside of the one game, he blamed the refs that didn't go over very well, and he didn't play too well. But look, decision time is coming. And I know it's only March. I'm over this. Like, you got to make a decision here. Whatever that is, let's do it and move on to the rest of free agency, even though I have little faith in this Cowboys team making good or great decisions when it comes to these types of things. So, prediction time, then I'll continue to rant a little bit more. What will Dallas end up doing with Dak Prescott this offseason? You got 3 options. Either going to extend him, get it done, because it will be cheaper now than next year if they really believe that we are done as a franchise. Or for they're just going to restructure, kick the can down the line, and for nothing. They'll just take the giant cap hit, which would be literally the opposite of being all in, but it's the Cowboys, so put nothing past them. Sound off in the comments. In the end, I hope they just make a decision. And I don't consider, by the way, restructure or doing nothing really a decision. I think you should either let him find a new team, trade, cut, whatever, or pay him. Because you have enough information by now to make that decision. Either this top 10 quarterback can help you win as a franchise, and you should be aggressive in these next few weeks, or years, I should say, or you start the rebuild process now. I think those are your options. And in the end, I don't have much faith with this franchise. Stephen Jones does not do a good job. And this is Stephen, by the way. Clearly Stephen Jones. That's why they're so conservative. I don't have faith on this. I really don't. Of note, I do want to mention what Troy Aikman had to say about this on whether or not Dak should get a deal done. Just because it's Aikman, it's Troy, it's worth discussing. Quote, who can play at a high level? And I know that they've come up short as a team in the last few years, but he's a great player in this league, and his best years are still ahead of him. I do think that sums it up pretty well. I think there's a long line of teams that would love to get their hands on Dak Prescott. But the Cowboys, he'll be the quarterback this year. It's next year that we'll see about. We will have more Cowboys coverage for you right here on the channel. So if you haven't already, of course, please make sure you are subscribed. I do want to hit Saquon Barkley. Robert Griffin III advocated for the Cowboys signing him. Ed Werder said, they're going to go cheaper. Don't get your hopes up. We were actually going to hit this while we were in Indy, but there was other news that was coming in. As we sit here filming, it is official, by the way, no tag for Saquon Barkley. That was expected outcome, so he will be a free agent, so it is possible for Dallas. Here was the argument from RG3. The Cowboys should raid their rival's closet and sign Saquon Barkley. Saquads is a 3-down back who brings both flash and substance. The quad god is still one of the most dynamic players in the NFL with the ball in his hands in the open field. Time for these stars to unite. RG3 is pretty funny and entertaining sometimes. Sometimes he tries a little bit too hard with 2 different nicknames involving the quads. You know, what's funny about Barkley, he was actually less effective than Tony Pollard was last season. For as upset as we were about the way Pollard played, Saquon was a bit more disappointing. Offered you maybe some more touchdowns, which is great and everything. In the end, the whole running back dynamic, I think, is best explained by Barkley. I agree. He is dynamic. He is electric. He brings you big plays. Why are his numbers so poor? The offensive line and supporting cast, namely the quarterback play, was bad in New York. It would be better in Dallas. But do you want to pay $10 to $15 million for a player who needs to have a really good supporting cast at running back? Or should you go a little bit cheaper? That's the argument I continue to run into myself. So prediction time. What is the percent chance the Cowboys sign Saquon Barkley? I think it's low. Something tells me he's going to be a Texan. Let's sound off in the comments section. Not only do I think Barkley ends up in Houston alongside Stroud, where they've got more money and they do want to run the ball even more than other teams do to a certain extent, I think Dallas wants to go cheaper. Let's say you do lose Saquon Barkley, or don't get Barkley, and you lose Pollard. Look at this list of free agent backs, sorted in order by rushing yards this past year, mind you. So we're missing guys. Alexander Madison's been cut. Joe Mixon might join this group. There are other quality backs you can get pretty cheap. It is a strong market at the running back position. Maybe you could get Devin Singletary. Maybe you want to gamble on potentially washed Austin Eckler. Everyone wants Zach Moss as an option. Maybe you do 1-year deal for J.K. Dobbins, prove-it contract coming off of the injury, although he might end up in New York potentially too. There are options in free agency at the running back spot. I would frankly be a bit disappointed if Dallas didn't sign one back because it should be cheap. It should fit their typical mold. I think you can sign a starting-ish caliber or at least a rotation back for like $3 million a year. That's very doable for this Cowboys team.